I kind of got 5 different things here that I wanted to talk about in terms of 5 reasons why Bitcoin will overtake gold. So I'll share these quickly and then we can discuss them. You guys can share a little bit more if you have anything to add to that. The chat as well. If there's any reasons why you would hold Bitcoin over gold, throw it in the chat and we'll start and talk about it. So the first one is you can't buy coffee with gold. And there's a lot of people who say that about Bitcoin. But the funny thing is now you actually can buy coffee with Bitcoin. But try buying a cup of coffee with an ounce of gold and see how that goes. So that's number one. Number two is their doomsday scenario is totally wrong. So for some reason, the gold bugs out there are betting on the world collapsing, betting on doomsday, betting on an apocalypse. Whereas Bitcoiners, on the other hand, are very optimistic and hopeful about the future. And we foresee a functioning society. But the reason, maybe we'll get into a couple of these points after, but that's, I think that if you had the choice between food, water, and gold, you're probably going to take food and water in that scenario. The third one I had was that you don't really own gold, even though you might have it in your dresser, in the safe maybe. You only own that gold until someone more powerful comes along and decides that they want that gold from you, which they cannot do with Bitcoin. Number 4 is that I think the demand for gold has peaked. I don't think that it will ever increase from here. I think that the majority of people and countries who own gold today are not growing in numbers. And I think that as the next generation, we transition and some of those members of the baby boomers, silent generation start to pass down some of their wealth, that is not going to be held in gold. That's going to be held in Bitcoin. So I think that we've reached the peak demand for gold at this point in 2025. And the last one is that you can't transact online, which I think is wildly overlooked from a lot of people. You cannot use gold online. And I don't know if you guys haven't noticed, people in the chat, if you haven't noticed, the majority of commerce is now online. This isn't something that's going to happen in the future. It's something that's happening today. A lot of people buy a lot of things online, and you cannot do that with gold. You cannot send gold through that QR code by Forest Head. You cannot buy a new hoodie online with gold. So those are the 5 reasons why I think that Bitcoin will overtake gold. That's why we titled the show this, and the thumbnail is Bitcoin is worth $1 million, because if Bitcoin were to pass gold, even get even with gold, that would put Bitcoin at about a $1 million price point today. So thoughts?
Yeah, I want to touch on that last one there. The internet is a way of transferring data. And when you go to a store, if you're paying with cash, I would argue that's the only time you're not using the internet, using a digital currency. If you use a debit card, credit card, your phone with your credit card on there, you're using the internet, or the store is going to use the internet to send that to the bank. The bank is using the internet to transfer data all over the place. So all of that is dependent on the internet, on the digital economy, basically. So that's it needs to be digitized. And I think Lynn Alden has said this, where ever since we invented the telegram, we have needed to invent a faster money. At one time, if we transferred gold, we would use that with a horse and buggy. And if we transferred information, we would use a horse as well. That was the fastest way to get information. So by settling a deal, you could settle it just as fast as you could settle payment. But with the telegram, you could communicate, okay, I want to make this deal. Let's sell this land and you owe me this amount of gold. And then it takes a month to get that gold there, but the deal's already been made. So information started traveling way faster than finance was able to. Now we have the technology with Bitcoin to transfer information transfer value just as fast as we can transfer information and have final settlement in something that can't be debased.
Yeah. And one thing that people are talking about here, China sold a bunch of their Bitcoin. I think they sold something like 15,000 Bitcoin. Just like Germany, they're going to regret it.
Oh, yeah.
In 10 years, 20 years, that 15,000 Bitcoin is going to be basically something that they can't even imagine getting back.
When did that happen?
I think it was a few days ago.
Oh, dummies.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
It could just be signal as well. I mean, a lot of people sell to trigger other people to sell so they can
Yeah.
buy back, right? There's a lot of tricks that large buyers and sellers do. They say they're selling and then they're actually buying from all the other people that then say they're selling, right? That's a hedge fund technique. But yeah, I mean, yeah, they're going to regret it. I mean, they're looking to go back to gold, and that's the thing. I'd also like to talk to one of your points there, Jorah, where you mentioned in a doomsday scenario, people try to go for gold, and that's really not that useful. You probably want to stack bullets and seeds, and maybe people would trade with those physically, right? Because those are very valuable. But really, people aren't really. I mean, some wild people out there are doomsday preppers or something like that, but it's when uncertainty happens that gold goes up in value. So people use it as like an uncertainty hedge. And we've seen that. We've seen that with the tariffs. We've seen all this global uncertainty in the economy happen, and we've seen gold prices go up. But so it kind of on the extreme end, it does go towards people trying to buy gold as like this ultimate safe haven. But I think that only works in the lead up to like an economic collapse. I think people realize, okay, well, what am I doing with this element, this shiny pet rock, as some people call it? What value does this actually have? Basically nothing in a real survival situation. And it really only has value for perceived from the history of it having value and its scarcity. But again, the scarcity is kind of a myth as well. I don't know if you guys have looked into this, but the amount of mining we have done has barely scratched the surface, like literally barely scratched the surface of Earth. We haven't dug very deep into the Earth's crust, and we actually don't know how much is going on below there, what kind of metals and elements there are underneath a lot of the area that we've surveyed. So there could be just crazy amounts of gold deposits all over the place that we have no idea.
I've seen that there's a lot of gold under the oceans that can be mined. If the price goes up significantly from here, people think, oh, it's going to go to 10K, it's going to go to 20K. It just makes it more profitable to take Bitcoin out of the earth if the price goes up, right? And if you think about it this way, if the price goes up, it becomes more profitable for people to take gold out of the earth. It also becomes more difficult to use it in electronics. So it just gets worse and worse over time. More and more, as the price goes up, more and more people may want to hold on to it. And then there's less gold available to use in, let's say, industrial production.
Yeah.
And how much did you say was used for jewelry, Forrest?
Roughly around 50% of gold is used for jewelry, and the rest is just stockpiled. So you could argue that the rest is a monetary premium on top of that, because people are valuing it based on its monetary history. So again, if Bitcoin starts to demonetize gold, just as gold demonetized silver, right? Silver and gold used to have an actual trading pair that was really, really stable. And then it decoupled when the gold standard was introduced, and countries that were on the silver standard got all the value extracted out of them, basically. It decoupled, and that's always been like an argument. If you talk to silver bulls, they're like, well, historically, it's always traded way closer to gold's value. 16 times, gold is 16 times more valuable. Now it's 46 times or something like this, these numbers, right?
I think it's more than that.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. But it's never going back there. Silver's never getting remonetized because gold beat it out. And now into the future, Bitcoin is more scarce, it's more usable, it's more decentralized, it's more valuable, and gold will become demonetized. So how much of that monetary premium that's on gold will go over to the value of Bitcoin, right? If it was 1 for 1, and that's not really the way markets are made. If it was 1 to 1 and half of the gold value was transferred over to Bitcoin's price would be what, 450,000, 500,000, something like that.
So somebody said here, I would like to see gold and Bitcoin merged somehow. That's not going to happen because, I mean, the way that I see it, gold is just a placeholder for Bitcoin. until people figure out what Bitcoin is, they're going to want gold, right? Because gold is the it's a bearer asset, so it gets rid of a lot of the risk that comes with, let's say, stocks or bonds or real estate. Even with real estate, it's a bearer asset, but you don't hold your deed. How many people do you guys have the deeds to your? Did you guys ever have the deeds to your house if you owned a house? I don't.
I'm not
No.
sure.
Probably not.
Yeah,
It's probably at the
probably
bank,
not.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Titled office, I think.
if something happens and you need to prove that you own a house, I mean, how do you know that the bank isn't going to turn on you, right, for your house? So the person said, I would like to see gold and Bitcoin merged. Somehow it's not going to happen because Bitcoin and gold are completely separate. You can create more Bitcoin. It's like trying to peg the US dollar to gold. The US dollar can be created at will. It has a higher inflation rate than gold. So trying to peg the US dollar to gold kind of breaks the system, and it allows the people who own the gold, because nobody can verify how much gold there is. Nobody can verify who holds gold. Even with Fort Knox, it's taken what? It's estimated that it's going to take 1.5 years to audit the total supply of gold. In that time, whoever is pegging their currency to gold can continue to just manipulate everybody, right?
Yeah.
So gold and Bitcoin won't merge because gold can't go on the internet. Bitcoin can't become physical. So they're completely separate. It's like trying to say that I'd like to see some crappy, or it's like saying I'd like to see a PS5 game played on a PS1 or Nintendo 64. It's not going to work.
That's a
It's
great
just not going to
analogy.
happen, right? It's because gold is so far. It's so far behind. It's 5,000 years old, and the people who, so a lot of people try to talk about how JP Morgan has a quote where gold is the only real money or something. You have to understand that Bitcoin didn't exist when he was alive. So of course he wouldn't know that Bitcoin is the real money. And people saying that as proof that, oh, gold is going to be around forever, I don't think they've really thought it through.
Yeah. And I would say they can't actually merge, but whoever created Bitcoin and the people developed Bitcoin, they took the best parts of what makes gold and they turned it into digital. And they turned Bitcoin, proof of work, the ledger system, and the accountability of it. They took the best parts of gold and actually made it better, and they made it digital. So that's the argument here, is like, and it's really tough for some people to understand Bitcoin because it's not tangible and they can hold a bar of gold. But again, you have to understand deeper what something actually is. Like, does the internet not exist because it's not physical? But in fact, it is physical. There's cables all over the place. There's modems, even signals through the airwaves. All of that is something. That's all stuff happening. And just because you can't see it, just because you can't touch it, doesn't mean it's not real. That's something that people need to reshape in their mind. And Bitcoin is just electric money. It's digital money. And gold was old physical money, and it needed an upgrade, because fiat was even an upgrade. The paperization, the tokenization of gold was an upgrade because it lacked the speed to keep up with the developments of other technologies. Again, the telegram was the start of it, and it was an upgrade in speed, but it was a downgrade in settlement and basically the laws of physics. So we needed to upgrade it, and Bitcoin is that monetary upgrade that we drastically needed.
And I think that's why it's important to kind of just skip fiat, because it's so, I think even the average person right now understands how broken our monetary system is. So I think that a lot of people are looking to gold in terms of like both a store of value and a monetary medium of exchange, but it's just not possible. And you could say, well, you could monetize or digitize gold. You could make a blockchain keeping track of who owns the gold. But the problem there is that the centralization involved with gold. You would still have to verify the fact that whatever's backing that digital currency backed by gold, that the gold is actually exists somewhere, and you can verify it. And it's also real gold, not, half gold or 80% gold or whatever that is. And that's impossible to do at this point. It's actually impossible to do. And I think that when we're talking about the physical world, we're talking about the digital world. it's pretty clear, I think, that the internet's going to stick around for a while, and the majority of things will be done over the internet, commerce, communication, everything like that. And the nice thing about Bitcoin is very unique in the sense that it actually takes energy from the physical world and it puts it online. And it's the only token, it's the only crypto, it's the only thing that does that. And the reason it does that is because it takes real energy, electricity, natural resources from the physical world to create Bitcoin that exists today, that people can send back and forth, transact with online. And that's the real power of Bitcoin here, is that it actually ties the physical world into the digital world.
I think there's another angle that we can look at this from as well. Let's say, for example, if BRICS, all these countries that are supposed to be cooperating with one another, if they were to back their currency with gold, how would anybody confirm that they actually have the gold? Or how would they even decide who holds the gold in the first place? Let's say China says that, oh, we're the most powerful, we'll hold it. How do the other countries trust them? Why would the other countries trust them? Right, that's one thing. If they were to use Bitcoin, they could use multi-sig wallets. They could all look at the wallets whenever they want to. They can confirm that the Bitcoin is there. They can confirm that the Bitcoin is real. If they were to go with gold, so this, I think this is just this just shows you that Bitcoin is money for enemies, while gold is just a shiny rock.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because even if you had the best storage, you could verify that the gold is there, you had live cams in there. The problem with that is it doesn't decentivize war like Bitcoin does.
Yeah.
Because that country will only hold that gold until a more powerful country comes along and decides that they want to take that gold from them. So you cannot do that with Bitcoin, whether we're talking about countries or individuals or anybody. Bitcoin, if done properly, regardless of how powerful they are, regardless of how many times they torture you, whatever, that you have the ability to never give them that Bitcoin, and you can't do that with any other asset. And that's a pretty powerful thing, because it takes away the incentive for people to participate in war.
Yeah. And the BRICS, I mean, we talk about it as an example, they would just be creating the exact same problem that the US dollar has as the reserve currency of the world. The US dollar was supposed to be a natural reserve currency, or a neutral reserve currency. And it's still required a huge amount of trust. It requires so much trust from anybody using it globally. They have to trust each other's trade, and they have to trust that this money is going to have value. It's not going to be rapidly debased upon settlement. And the US has broken that trust multiple times. But all these nations, everybody around the world, they don't know what else to use. Like the limitations of gold is such that it makes it impractical to trade. It makes it too expensive to trade. So the world drastically needs a neutral currency that doesn't require trust. And that's exactly what Bitcoin is. And it's really the problem that they're having to overcome is believing that Bitcoin has any value. And I think that's the problem that a lot of people have to overcome when they first hear about Bitcoin. What gives Bitcoin any value? It's just somebody else is willing to pay for it with these dollars. It's really just trying to figure out, okay, what actually gives it value? And once you understand, well, it can't be debased, you can actually hold it. All of these factors that go into Bitcoin, you start to understand that money does have a value. It's a very incredible technology. It's a tool for trade, and that we need something like this. So therefore it has value. The fact that it's needed gives it value.
So somebody said here, I think this is a great comment to answer right now. Like you started there, Jor. If gold has no value for survival and it's a physical item, what is Bitcoin worth for survival? It's not. You can't eat Bitcoin. You can't drink Bitcoin. You can't eat gold. You can't drink gold. So I think money exists in societies where where people are able to, a functioning society where people are able to cooperate with one another, right? If you don't have a society where people are cooperating with one another, where people are just willing to do whatever they can because they're struggling, they're starving, in that case, the only form of money that you're going to have is guns, lead.
Just barter.
Right.
In a completely unstable environment like that, it does go back to barter until people can trust that something's going to retain its value over time, and they're going to agree on something being a medium of exchange.
But that's the issue. Only barter only works until somebody has a stronger weapon. Right? If they threaten to shoot you and they're like, "Hey, give me all your stuff, you get to keep your life in exchange."
Well, I would say trade in general could
Yeah.
be like that, even if there was
True. Yeah.
a tool in between barter.
Yeah.
You still have to, and then yeah, I mean that's why we have like the laws and police and military, and all of that is all to protect people's rights to fair trade.
Yeah.
But all of that is up for debate, how useful or how well it works and everything, right? And there's all sorts of unfair trade that goes around because of brute force as
Yeah.
well. But yeah,
And in that scenario, you're probably not going to be using gold for electronics. You're probably not going to have electronics because that,
yeah,
I mean, even creating electronics, it takes a lot of cooperation. It takes a lot of specialization. If you're trading, if you're bartering directly for goods and services, then I think specialization will be very difficult to achieve because you have to focus on creating certain goods and services, but instead you're focused on survival. I think that's one of the things that we have today, right? We have we have such an advanced society that we're doing so well. We see the smallest problems. If we didn't have the kind of society that we have today, our problems would be so much worse.
yeah.
Right? So much. We wouldn't have a lot of the things that we're doing today. We wouldn't be able to do them. We wouldn't have the same work that we have. The entire world would be completely different.
100%.
And the thing is about a doomsday scenario is, in my opinion, those are only possible localized and for a short time frame. And
Yeah.
because certain areas around the world are still going to function, have an economy, a society, and all of that, it's going to be very terrible for the people where a terrible situation happens that causes destabilization. But eventually they'll either move to more stable areas, they'll migrate, right, as we can see in war zones and things, or they'll rebuild and it'll start functioning again. And in both of those cases, it still makes sense to have a store of value that's recognized by all of the stable areas in the world in these doomsday scenarios. I think the world is sufficiently decentralized in nations, countries, and the way we orchestrate and organize as humans, that a single doomsday global event is next to impossible. I mean, the likelihood is next to nothing.
And then the next question here, can someone tell me what's the supply of gold? Nobody knows. Nobody has any idea what the supply of gold is
Yeah, that's a
because
problem.
you
Yeah.
find gold in the ground. If somebody finds gold in their backyard, then who's going to stop them from adding it to the supply? We have no idea how much gold exists. We have no idea who's digging deeper and deeper into the earth. Let's say China, for example. China will tell us that, oh, we have this amount of gold. We have this amount of gold. We have no idea. We have no way to confirm. Even
Yeah.
even the people who are very well versed on gold, they've spent a lot of time learning about it. They have no idea. They can't tell you what the supply is going to be. On the other hand, with Bitcoin, we know exactly how much Bitcoin is going to exist. You can't say it to the second because we don't know how long every block is going to take. Some of them are shorter, some of them are longer, but you can go by the year, right? We know that there's going to be 21 million Bitcoin by 2140.
You can go by the
That'd be a
month
little
pretty
sooner.
much too, based on
Yeah,
how the
by the month,
difficulty
yeah.
adjustment every 2 weeks, right? You
Yeah.
could pretty accurately predict based on the month.
Yeah. The only issue with that, I don't completely agree with you because sometimes there's more hash power dedicated to the system, and sometimes on average it seems like the 4-year cycle is shorter than 4 years because there's more.
True. Yeah, that's true.
Right. The target of the difficulty adjustment is to bring it to 10.
Yeah.
It's to 10 minutes. It's not to bring it on average, like in total, to 10 minutes. It's just for that 2-week period, right? So in that 2-week period, it could go below 10, and then the next period it'll go back to 10. It won't go higher to average it out. So it could take until, let's say we think 2140. It could take until 2135.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
yeah, the hash rate is constantly increasing, which shortens the length within the 2 weeks until the difficulty adjustment comes up. So that's why it's usually, you know, like a couple weeks or a month faster each halving, is because it just on average the hash rate is increasing, which is speeding up the 2 week periods.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the last thing I'd say on this in terms of the gold having value for survival, I don't know what it is. I feel like the gold bugs have this weird like fantasy about, you know, the internet going down, the power going out, them being able to finally go into their basement and get out their gold coins. They're going to go for a nice stroll around the block. They're going to be able to offer things with their gold for food and stuff. But realistically, if the internet goes out for, you know, more than a couple weeks, people are going to be scrambling. Like there's not a whole lot of people out there who have more than a week's worth of food and water in their house. They just don't. And so in that type of scenario, you walk up to somebody's house with a couple ounces of gold in your hand and try to buy a couple sandwiches or a couple pickles. They're gonna be like, no, because I don't know when the internet's coming back on or when the power's coming back on. Why would I trade you food for that piece of, you know, for a pet rock? It doesn't make any sense. And that's like their whole basis of why they're holding gold is like in that scenario, you're not going to be able to use your Visa, you're not going to be able to use Bitcoin, but I'm going to magically be able to pay for things with an ounce of or a couple of gold coins. It's just nonsense to me.
Yeah. It is.
If anything, people will want it less at that time because you can't use it for it. You can't do. What are you going to do with gold at that time?
Exactly. You can't do anything with it. And so we're not arguing saying that Bitcoin is like a better alternative in a doomsday scenario. We're saying that we're betting on humanity. We're betting on a functioning society. And in that functioning society, Bitcoin is a far superior asset to gold. So yes, gold was the best store of value before January 3rd, 2009.
Yeah.
But most people holding gold, either their ego gets in the way or they've gone too far down that road. And I shouldn't say all gold bugs because there's a lot of people who hold gold and Bitcoin, which I think is insane. But, you know, most gold bugs still do, you know, just avoid Bitcoin for that reason.
Well, I would say that gold bugs, they understand that fiat money is unsound. They're just betting on the wrong horse of what will continue to, or what will be the history or the future money is what I'm trying to say. So
Right.
We agree. I think I've talked to a lot of gold bugs and they just can't understand the intangible nature of Bitcoin. They think there's too many risks on top of that because they oftentimes do not understand technology. They do understand maybe the money side of things. So that's where I would say that. And there's two different types of people that I talked that I'll actually legitimately try to orange pill, and that's crypto bros and gold bugs, because they at least understand something, either part maybe the technology side or maybe the money side, and they just have it wrong with the connection of the two.
Yeah, I think most people are just so far behind. They have no idea what's going on. They don't want to hear about what's going on because, I mean, at the end of the day, you can't really blame them either, right? Because they're struggling to make ends meet. They spend their entire day working. So why would they really want to? They spend their entire day making money, so they don't really want to study money. It's because they don't have any energy. They don't have any time. Their time is being stolen from them. And again, it all goes back to that root cause. The root cause is that they don't understand how money works. The root cause is that the people who are creating the money today are stealing their value from them. And once they figure this out, I think everything is going to change. And that could take a long time, right? That could take a really long time. I think by the time that people really figure it out, by the time that people figure out what the true value of Bitcoin is, it's going to be at millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah. We'll be pricing all our charts in sats because it'll make a lot more sense to do so than to have these Bitcoin that are worth $1 million. I think that's the next step of adoption is getting Satoshis to be a lot more common as a unit of count. And it's just going to take a lot of time. And I feel horrible for all the people that think they can save money, because the savers are the ones that suffer from monetary debasement. The debtors are the ones that benefit. The savers are the ones that suffer. So if you think you're saving money, you're doing the right thing, you've been told, put a percentage of your paycheck away, you are you're getting your life sucked out of you. by doing that. I mean, you have literally used your life, your time and energy. You're tired at the end of the day. You've done all of that to acquire money. That money is your energy and time abstracted into a third form, and that is being taken from you. And so it's a form of stealing people's life from them, the monetary debasement.
Yeah.
My theory on that is that gold bugs, silver bugs, the longer they've been in silver, the more resistant they are to Bitcoin. I feel like there's a lot of people going through, there's a great awakening happening right now all around the world between media, government, monetary, everything. People are realizing the fact that something's wrong here. And when people have that realization, the first thing that they usually go to is what has always been around, which is gold and silver. That's where I came from. I started my journey here in gold and silver. That's the first thing I ran to. And once you're past that, once you have the realization that this system is broken, fiat will never recover from where we are, you go to gold and silver. But then your mindset is different. You realize that there's something wrong and there's maybe hopefully a better solution out there. And that's usually when you find Bitcoin. So I feel like that's kind of like the natural progression is from fiat to gold and silver to Bitcoin. And the shorter you're in the gold and silver, I think the faster you can get to Bitcoin. But the longer you're there, the more ego you have, the more people you've talked about it, told them to buy these different precious metals, and the less likely you are to move on to Bitcoin from there.
Yeah, it's an ego test and it's a IQ test. It's a whole bunch of tests. You got to really humble yourself to recognize when you're wrong, and the more you're entrenched in something, the harder it is to recognize that. And again, yeah, if you've told a bunch of people about your beliefs of whatever asset, and then you have to go back on that and say, you know what, I think I was wrong. I'm actually going to go over to this other thing that I think is better. That's a hard pill to swallow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crypto Princess. Sorry, Rajat, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, no, go ahead with what you're saying. I was just going to answer one of Crypto Princess's questions that get highlighted.
She's popular. I was going to say Crypto Princess says, or just hold both gold and Bitcoin. I don't think that that's a real good play, honestly. 1 ounce of gold, you can get about 3 million sats for that. I think that's if you're holding any gold in your house instead of Bitcoin, I think that's going to be a serious mistake. One's going to go up forever. Gold will probably go up, in comparison to the monetary supply, but over time, Bitcoin especially if you're our age or Crypto Princess's age, holding, the longer you hold on to that gold, the less sats and real wealth you're going to end up with at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I think gold is real Beanie Babies because you can't do anything with it. What are you going to do with it? People say that Bitcoin is Beanie Babies, but you can't do anything with Bitcoin. What are you going to do with gold? If you have gold in your basement or in your vault, who are you going to pay with it? You can't.
Well, you wait till the power goes out and then you walk around and see who's willing to sell you things.
you know what's interesting here about holding different assets is that's what's so interesting about like the network effect. And people talk about, okay, well, Bitcoin is MySpace and there's going to be a Facebook. There's no switching cost from switching to MySpace to Facebook. You can still have your MySpace profile and you can make a Facebook profile. But with assets where you've acquired them for value, that is locked in there unless you swap it into a different asset. So but a lot of people say, oh, well, I have Bitcoin, but I have some Solana, I have some of this and that and this. All of that money you've allocated to those other things is not in Bitcoin, and therefore you're missing out on the opportunity cost of the true innovation in the space, which is Bitcoin. And there's a real cost to not switching over to the dominant protocol. And again, if we're talking monetary systems, gold is lumped into these competitors of the new monetary system. And so again, if you're allocated to gold, you're not allocated to Bitcoin with that specific amount.